Hello everyone, this is Nuresh Mirani from nureshtech.co.in. Before I start the video, a standard disclaimer and disclosure. I would have positions in some of the stocks discussed as well as it has been recommended to clients, and we can change our position going forward. So please do your own risk and research before you take any positions. This is purely a technical view out here. So we look at Nifty CPSE today. So this is an index which has been one of the most underperforming ones over the last 6-7 years. So this is an index which has not been able to cross the highs of 2014 even in 2020-21. It is still available at the prices where it was in 2014. Only thing one can say is there could be some dividend adjustments which would make it a little better. But the fact is it has been a major underperformer over the long period of time. Even in the short term, it was always an underperformer over the years. Recently, we've started seeing relative performance to be in line with the markets. Now, what makes it interesting is that the index is on verge of a breakout above the pre-COVID highs as well as a 2-year breakout, and there have been multiple attempts around that 2050 to 2100 mark. So this is the pre-COVID period. Then again, back in the start of 2021, couple of attempts around that 2050, 2100. Again, for the last 3 months, it has made multiple attempts around the 2050-70 mark. Now, in the last few days, it's given a short-term breakout if we adjust it for the dividends. Very interestingly poised in terms of a good base made around here at 1950, where it has made a couple of bottoms as well as retested the previous breakout point. Somewhere closer to this also is a similar zone. So if this breaks out about 2100 mark, we could expect it to go all the way to 2400 first, and then maybe if that is crossed, we could look at a higher target price. So the risk reward is worth it, wherein the risk could be 5% from the current prices, but the upside could be almost closer to 15-20% over the medium term. Now similarly, if we look at the Nifty PSE index, which is also similarly placed, so this is the Nifty PSE index. Out here, again, if you notice around that 3750, 3800 mark, a top here in 2018, then in 2019, almost 3 to 4 tops around here, back in the start of 2021, and now we have just crossed above those levels. Again, retest of the previous breakout points and starting a trend up. Now, one of the reasons this two indices look very interesting is from the lows of March 2020, if you were to project a target price, it would be way higher. So we would take it one step at a time, wherein in this case also we could be looking at a 15-20% upside if this breakout continues with a stop loss at 5%. Now, if you look at both the indices, these are the weights out here. So Powergrid is the largest weight in both the indices. Ongc being the second one out here. Out here it is Ntpc, then Bpcl, and then again Ongc Coal India. Out here it is Ongc, Ntpc, Coal India. Bpcl does not become a part of it. So out here the four or five interesting stock charts are shaping up for a real good breakout if it sees follow-up price action over the next few weeks. Are Powergrid, Ongc, Coal India, and a Bpcl. So let us look at those charts. So we start off with Powergrid, which is the largest weight. So if you look at the stock chart for a little longer period, the stock has done nothing much from even 2007 levels. From the highs of 2017 of around that 170 mark, it broke out above it a couple of times in the start of 2021, flopped out, again made a move, has made 2 tops around that 185 to 188 mark, but a very strong base made around 170. There are almost 3 to 5 bottoms in this zone. And in the interim, 178, which is the extreme short-term swing high, is a breakout point, and adjusting it for dividend, it comes to closer to 175, so 176. So 178 and then 188, if that is crossed, that would be an indication of a strong momentum out here. So out here at 174, the stops at 168, 170 make it a very good risk-reward proposition, or one could act on the way up. So Powergrid being the largest weight, interestingly poised, low risk reward, and if this makes a sharp move, that would also imply a sharper move in the PSE and the CPSE index. Then we come to Ongc. Now this is one stock which used to be in the Nifty 50 in the top 15 years back. So it used to be the top second or the third weight in 2006-7, and since then it has been relegated way down the category. The stock is available at the same prices as it was in 2006. So the only return you would have made in Ongc is the dividends. Then if we look at the 2014 highs of 300, it is still down from 300 to 120s. And if you put a trend line, it is on verge of a longer term trend change, wherein the downtrend seems to be turning around. Then if we go a little shorter term, 125 to 128, 130 is the resistance zone. This used to be the support zone before the COVID crisis, even out here in 2019. So a major cluster at 125, 130. So if it can cross 130, that would be an indication of strong momentum. So this could, again, the targets could be way higher. So out here waiting for price action to confirm more. Short-term breakouts have taken place above that 118, 120 mark. Interestingly poised for a longer-term trend change. So Powergrid, Coal India. Then we look at Bpcl, which is just part of the PSE. Now this is another stock which has multiple resistances around 550, the highs of 2017, then in 2019. In the near term, for the last 1 year post the COVID crisis, it has made multiple attempts around that 480 to 500 mark. Out here also a move to 500. The only problem here is the stock has a trigger in terms of disinvestment, so it's a tough bet out here. A little bit of a binary risk in terms of announcement, so it could be a stroke of luck or bad luck in that sense. But if this one crosses 540, 550, that would be a 3-year plus breakout. And also the stock went into a big rally from 2014 to 17 and it's still been sideways for the last 3-4 years. So in the short term, it has given a breakout above the previous highs of June. A couple of weeks of consolidation here in a fresh move today. So looks interesting, but not as convincing on the other names because of possibility of announcements. Then we come to Coal India, another interesting stock purely for the fact in terms of terrible underperformance. When I say terrible, this was one of the few stocks which actually made a low below March 2020 in October 2020. For the last almost 1.5 years, the stock has been around that 150 mark. 3 attempts around that 160, 65. Multiple attempts around that 150. Short term, it has given a breakout of 145. Adjusted for some bit of dividend which it got recently. Interestingly, good volumes today. So that was the first indication of strong volumes. But there were such 3 volume bump ups before also. If it can cross 160, 65, that could be a huge trend change. If you were to look at the downtrend, it's been in a continuous downtrend for a long period of time, ever since the highs in 2015. Now mind you, this was one of the largest IPO in its time when it got listed 10 years back, and it's still closer to 50% lower than those prices. So again, another stock where only return would have come is through dividends. So 160 is 65 would be a very strong breakout if it happens. For the short term, one could have a target at 165 in the near term. So that's Coal India. Then we try to look at Ntpc, another stock which has been pretty sideways for a long period of time. When I say long period of time, if you look at it, the stock is available at the same price that it was in 2006, 2008, 2013. And even in the last 3-4 months, it has been tightly ranged between 112.15 on the lower end and 120.22 on the upper end. Multiple tops out here around that 120.25 mark. So if this one, again, base made at 112.15, holding on around those prices, if it can cross 122, 125, that would be a huge trend change on the longer term charts as well. So that would be a 2-year breakout. So interestingly poised here for all the names. So out here, if you look at it, Powergrid, Ongc, Ntpc, Coal India, Bpcl, all are setting up for longer term breakouts. A good time to watch out for follow-up momentum in these names. If somebody has a longer term view, the risk reward is interesting. Most of these companies quoted terrible valuations relative to the market valuations as of now. One could look at it in terms of dividend yield, one could look at it in terms of P. But the point is, this has been a sector which has not had the best governance, as well as not been a sector of liking. The point is, if we go right, there's a good upside. If we go wrong, there's a 5% downside risk. So looks an interesting sector to watch out for. There would be two ways one would go into this trade. One would be a preemption, which we've done over the last couple of sessions, keeping a stop loss at 3-5% in most of the stocks at the recent swing lows. Second is to buy them on breakouts, which is where a 160.65 on Coal India, 178 to 188 on Powergrid, Ongc at 128, 130, Ntpc at 120s, a Bpcl at 500 and 550. So interesting chart formations for the medium to long term. Again, a disclosure, we have a biased view out here and we are very strict with our stop losses. Thanks a lot. Interestingly poised. Let's see how it works out.